Oh, hey YouTube. Yeah, so we're gonna be talking about evolution and Darwin's theory of evolution, how it works. We're gonna break it up like Darwin did, 6 steps. Yes. Uh, Basically, the first point of Darwin's belief, that is common in the science world today, is that there's variations within species. Uh, so, for example, uh, me and my brother were not only both humans. Not only are we both humans, but we're also brothers. And still, obviously, we're very different. For example, I'm the brother that's better looking. I have that variation. Uh, so basically, what Darwin is trying to say is no two organisms in the world are exactly alike. And so then, what this leads to the next point is that these variations, they are inherited. So I got my genes from my mom and from my dad. My brother also got his genes from my mom and from my dad, but they're just slightly different. And so those genes that I have from my mom and from my dad, I have into me. And then when I mate with whoever, uh, my offspring would have genes from me, which are from my mom and from my dad, and from wife, who and wife has from wife's mom and from wife's dad. And so you start to develop these different gene pools, and different variations and different traits develop within the gene pools that are created. And then when these gene pools are created within these within the environment that an organism lives in, the biome that they live in, the niche that they live in, there are resources that they depend on, and those resources are limited. And because organisms depend on those resources, uh, there's competition for those resources. So what will happen is an organism will overproduce offspring so that there's higher probability that a decent amount of those kids will live and pass on their genes, just like I passed on my genes. So, for example, frogs, those things that jump. Yeah, you're smart. You know what they are. Um, they might lay 1,000 eggs, for example, and 100 of those eggs will hatch into tadpoles, and 10 of those tadpoles will develop into full adult frogs and then pass on their genes. So, had the frog only laid 100 eggs, uh, then only 10 would develop into tadpoles, and then only one of those tadpoles would become a frog. Hypothetically. You never know. And from that competition, um, not everybody's going to survive. So, from the offspring that survive, the ones with the stronger traits, those are the ones that are going to survive even longer and pass on their traits. And so, if the weaker, it just doesn't make sense that the weaker ones live longer and pass on their traits. So, obviously, you're going to have the stronger traits being passed on, those stronger traits are being developed. And it only makes sense because the fittest animals are going to live longer because they are well adapted, their characteristics, they are appropriate for the environment in which they live in. And so the weaker, unfortunately, not everybody can live. The weaker organisms die out, and the stronger ones with the better traits, the characteristics that are better designed for the environment in which that organism lives in, that animal's gonna live longer. And that's what happens. These genes are passed on, and then that species evolves. And the species evolves, and this is something that takes a long time. Like, it doesn't happen over a couple of days organisms don't go like, oh yeah, you know what? I think I want to evolve, and then they evolve. Is like it's something that happens because it's just appropriate, and it takes a really long time, thousands, maybe even millions of years. It's not like Pokemon, you know, it's a very long process.